Good morning, I'm Father X. In this episode, I'll talk about parental alienation, which is closely related to the best interest factor called fostering a relationship between the child and the other parent. We'll talk about practical ways to identify parental alienation, how to testify in family court about the facts, and how to show your judge the correct conclusion to make. We'll also talk about child abduction and kidnapping as a subset of parental alienation. Why does this matter? It's in the best interests of a child to feel comfortable, loving, and living with either parent, and to have each parent support the child's relationship with the other parent. If one parent is undermining this relationship for no legitimate reason, then they should have less than 50% parenting time. If the alienating mother gets primary custody, she won't foster a positive relationship between the father and the child, and that's in the worst interests of the child. It would only be in the best interests of the mother. Let's break this all down into smaller pieces. The ideal parenting scenario. First, let's talk about a perfect world in divorce, where both parents separate and agree to 50-50 custody of their child. Each parent is perfectly happy having the child spend time with the other parent. They never talk badly about each other, and they support each other's role as a parent. Imagine where the child asks mommy if he can stay with dad for the next 2 nights during mommy's parenting time, and mommy just says, yes, of course, and then it just happens with no drama. Think about how easy that is for the kid. Some parents can create this ideal scenario, but many cannot. If you're evaluating parental alienation in your case, measure the mother's actions against this ideal scenario. The contrast helps you identify bad behavior versus good behavior. What is parental alienation? Everything I discuss here goes both ways for both parents, but I'll focus on the point of view of the alienated father. Parental alienation is a process where one parent manipulates a child into rejecting, fearing, or avoiding the other parent. The goal is to damage the child's relationship with the other parent and turn the child's emotions against them. This is a form of child abuse because the children often experience emotional distress, anxiety, and guilt, which can lead to psychological issues such as depression and difficulty forming relationships. This manipulation damages parental bonds and forces a child to be loyal to one parent against the other. Let's break this down into 2 types of alienation: physical and emotional. Physical alienation. This happens when a parent blocks communication and contact between the child and the alienated parent, such as canceling visitations, interfering with phone calls, or blocking any efforts to maintain a meaningful parent-child relationship. Here are some basic questions you can ask to prepare your testimony on this topic. Does she enable you to have the parenting time given to you in a court order? Or does she often cancel your time and make excuses as to why you can't see the child? For example, if your child is sick, it doesn't mean your parenting time is canceled. It means that now it's your turn to take care of your sick child during your parenting time. Does she refuse to give you more parenting time beyond any minimal parenting time given in any court orders? Does the mom enable you to participate freely in your child's life and activities? Has she made false allegations against you to make the court give you less parenting time? If she's making false allegations that you're a danger to her or the child, then during the trial, first prove she made false allegations, like we discussed in episode 11D, proving false allegations of domestic violence. That becomes a double negative for her because not only did she lie about abuse claims, but you've proven that she's using the false claims to not foster a relationship between you and your child. Here are more questions. Does the mom threaten to keep you away from your child? Does she threaten to move away so you can't see your child? Does she limit or block phone calls, video calls, or contact with dad? I can tell you from experience that my son often didn't feel like stopping what he was doing in order to take his mother's phone call. I think that's normal. But if it happens a large percentage of the time, or the other parent is blocking calls, then that's a problem. Does mom withhold medical or educational information from the dad, or keep dad's name out of medical or school records? For all these questions, state the exact facts of what the mother said or did. Don't just state what you believe she's thinking. You should write a journal as all these things happen. It may be evidence later. And bring as much documented evidence as you can to back up your testimony. Also, you should often ask the mother for more parenting time during the trial process because you're setting a trap for her and the judge. A parent that's given primary custody is required to also foster a relationship between the other parent and the child. During the initial temporary orders, you should test whether she can do that. And if not, then she's not qualified to be the primary custodial parent. I'll lay it out for you. First, if the mother denies you extra parenting time, most of the times you ask, then you can show that she's not fostering a relationship between you and the child in the worst interests of the child. Therefore, the dad should have 50-50 or primary custody because he wouldn't do that to the mom. Second, for example, if dad has 25% of the parenting time and the mother agrees to additional parenting time here and there during the trial process, such that you actually ended up with around 50-50 custody, then your argument in court is that the mother has already agreed to give you 50-50 custody. So the judge should order that because that's already happening by mutual agreement. And by giving you more parenting time, the mother is implicitly agreeing that you're fit and able to care for your child. And she's agreeing you're not a danger to the child, which undermines any of her false allegations. Emotional alienation. Emotional alienation happens when the mom tries to convince the child that he should fear you, reject you, or avoid you in any number of ways. For example, Daddy is dangerous and he abused me. Daddy left us both and he doesn't love you. Daddy loves his job or other people more than he loves you and me. Daddy is no good. He can't support us financially. Daddy did A, B, C, and he's a bad person because of it. It's abusive to tell a child that one of their parents is evil. For example, my son's mother tells him that I am Satan. Luckily, I have primary custody. Because my son lives with me most of the time, he knows exactly who I am. And this manipulation does not work on him. And that's why dads need at least 50% of the parenting time. Here are some questions you can ask to prepare your testimony on emotional alienation. Does mom force the child to choose which parent to love? Does mom withdraw love from the child if they show love for their dad? Does mom ask the child to spy on dad or keep secrets from dad? Does mom insult dad in front of the children? Does mom not allow the child to talk positively about dad or have photos of him or engage in activities with him? Describe these incidents in detail. Gathering evidence and presenting arguments. The focus should be on the best interests of your child, not on your right to parent. Parental alienation can be mild or extreme depending on your case. If you and the mother can co-parent and foster a relationship with each parent, then 50-50 custody might be best. Testify about examples where you both effectively foster a relationship between the child and the other parent. However, if the mom is engaging in parental alienation, then testify about these instances, and if they're bad enough, say you want primary custody to prevent your child from being damaged by the mom. When you testify about parental alienation, say exactly what the mother said and did based on the questions I asked you earlier. You don't absolutely need evidence for every action, but it helps a lot if you show documentation such as emails, texts, witness accounts, voicemails, or social media posts. For evidence, don't just hand 100 pages to the judge. They won't read or understand it. Tell a story. Present the email evidence for that story. Tell another story. Present the text evidence for that story. Many conversations happen verbally, where the mother insults the father to the child, or the mom tells the dad he can't see the child. I recommend you follow up with an email to the mother and discuss the incident. Then, the conversation is no longer just verbal, but it's in writing, and you can present it as evidence. If the mother admits her bad behavior in writing, that's awesome. If she ignores your email, it shows that she's hiding and not responsive. If she denies your allegation, then you still have an email showing this is an issue you raised previously and not just a new false testimony. Have witnesses testify about the mom's behavior, if you can. Your child might be a witness, but you probably don't want your child to go through the stress of testifying in court against one parent. Try to prove parental alienation without having your child testify. If your child is a teenager, then they might be more willing and able to testify. Decide what's right for your kids. Some judges are aware that parental alienation has a harmful impact on the child, but many judges are clueless, and many judges ignore this issue because paying attention to it means they might have to take custody away from the mom. Either way, it's your job to bring testimony and evidence to teach that judge how your child is negatively impacted. You have to do it assertively and politely, unfortunately. For example, during the first 2 years of my trial, while I only had custody of our son for 2 nights a week, I asked the mother for extra parenting time of 1, 2, or 3 extra days here and there. I asked every month. Over 2 years, I made about 28 requests. She said no about 27 out of 28 times. When I finally testified, as evidence, I printed out all the emails where I asked the mother for time and she denied me. I presented those emails as one package of evidence. And more importantly, I had a cover page that was like a table of contents that showed the date I asked for parenting time and a column showing the mother's response of yes or no. In this one summary page, the judge could see 28 requests and 27 denials. And I showed the math that 27 denials out of 28 times equals 96% of the time where the mother didn't foster a relationship between me and our child. I didn't speak about each specific occasion, only a few of them, but I described the pattern of behavior of the mother minimizing my time with our child. I also testified that while we lived together, she often threatened to move away with our child so that I could never see him again. And I showed how her 27 out of 28 denials was just her carrying out her threat to remove me from our son's life. I showed how her threat became reality. The sequence of what you testify about matters a lot. For example, first, I spent hours testifying about how the mother was the violent one in our home and proving that her allegations against me were false. After I established the truth about domestic violence, then I presented testimony that the mother was denying me parenting time for no legitimate reason. The sequence matters because if you first testify that she's denying you parenting time, then the judge might think the mother should deny you parenting time because you're abusive. So first, you attack the underlying assumption that you're abusive, and once you demonstrate that's false, then it's easy for the judge to see the mother is denying you parenting time based on nothing more than her desire to eliminate you from your child's life. After stating the facts, your argument and conclusion might sound like this. It's clear the mother has engaged in a pattern of trying to eliminate the father from our child's life. She has already shown us she'll do this. If our child is forced to live with his mother for most of his life, then we know he'll continue to be exposed to this abusive mindset of the mother. And I, the father, have already shown that I won't engage in this kind of behavior that the mother engages in. Therefore, we can conclude 2 things. First, we need to protect our child from this emotional abuse, and the only way to do that is to give the father 50-50 or primary custody. Second, to protect my right to parent our child, I need equal or the majority of parenting time to establish my relationship with our child and to minimize the mother's ability to destroy that relationship. If you have third-party evaluators like a guardian ad litem or a forensic psychologist or child protective services, then you have to convince them of parental alienation, just like you would a judge. You need to get them to agree with you so they take your side on this. Now let's discuss prior child abduction. When a parent abducts or kidnaps a child, that's evidence of not fostering a relationship between the child and the other parent. But if the mother is a victim of domestic violence and fearful for her life, and the judge agrees with that, then the judge is likely to just forgive her for it and say she should have custody anyway. So if the mom is lying about domestic violence, then you have to prove she's lying in order to show the mother's actions are just intended to alienate the father. Some fathers say the mother kidnapped the child by taking the dad to family court and getting custody. That might be true in the common use of language, but I recommend you don't use the word kidnapping in court unless it meets your state law's criteria for actual kidnapping. For example, if the mom moves the child to another state without the dad's knowledge or permission, that's probably kidnapping. If she moves to another jurisdiction in the same state, that might also be kidnapping. But if she moves to a new home in the same jurisdiction and denies the father court-ordered parenting time, then that's custodial interference. Check your state's laws. To protect your parenting rights, you should immediately claim in writing to the mother that you don't agree to her moving away with the child. And you should take actions immediately that show you're trying to prevent this, such as calling the police or filing petitions in court or meeting with her to stop this. If the mother moves away with a child and you let this go on for 3 months or 2 years, then the mother and the judge will claim that you were perfectly fine allowing the mother to be the sole custodial parent and that your parenting time should be minimal. Questions you can ask to prove child abduction are: did the mom move to another state or jurisdiction without your knowledge or agreement? Did this ever rise to the level of abduction with police involvement? Did the other parent move away with the child and denied you your court-ordered parenting time? Has the other parent threatened to move away with the child so that you'll never see the kids again? Be aware, some mothers want to move back home to another state because they need the support of family or friends. This matters if the goal is to ensure the best interests of the mother, but the goal is the best interest of the child, and mom moving away will hurt the child's relationship with the father. In cases like this, focus on the idea that dad can be the primary custodial parent without going out of state for a support system. And dad, as the primary custodial parent, would still promote a relationship between the child and the mom. In contrast, if the mother was the primary custodial parent, she could only do so by leaving the state and removing the father from the child's daily life. So, which scenario is better for the child? In the next episode, we'll discuss more best interest factors so you can learn what to talk about and how to put it together for your judge. These might be the darkest days of your life. They were for me. I'm making these educational videos to help you navigate this nightmare. If you subscribe, you can get updates when I post more videos. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends who are in a similar situation. Please support this channel so I can make more videos. You can donate via my YouTube channel's About page using PayPal or Venmo.